to work together to one ultimate goal. And goal is almost the word of the morning, because I want to introduce author Stuart Blyth with his book From Pitch to Boardroom, for starters. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much, Phil.
Brilliant. And with Stuart today is our old mate David Simpson from Team Building Asia. Good to see you.
Morning, Phil. Good to see you.
Back on the programme. I love the idea of using a sport to teach people how to behave, I think. Describe a little bit about the book, Stuart, would you?
Yes, it is about teaching people how to behave, but it's also teaching business leaders how to get those people to behave.
Right.
And that's what sports coaching really teaches us, that perhaps we don't see so much of in the commercial world.
Right. Let's start with the other end of it, boys, if you would. What are the big problems that generally you're going to find when people come along and they think, you know, that they want to be a better, slicker team as a business, but they're not? What are the general pitfalls you immediately are going to notice?
The immediate pitfalls that we immediately notice are when we ask the leader of that team, what is the vision for that team? You can ask any sports coach on the planet that question.
Is vision a kosher word to use, or is it a bit too jargony?
No, it's absolutely a kosher word.
Okay, go on then.
Because you'll ask any sports coach on the planet, and it doesn't matter whether it's football or any other sport, what is the vision for the team that they're managing, and they will tell you, in 2 years' time, I want to win this competition. And they will tell you exactly who will be in the team at that point.
Okay.
You ask any business leader what their vision is, and they say, I want to double revenue. Great. Who's in the team? They don't know.
Right. Dave, vision. You know what I'm getting at here.
Absolutely.
I know exactly what you mean, but some words, when you reach out to people and you empower people, you're like, oh, come on.
Well, what we find is when people talk about vision is everyone sees the same vision, whether it's raising revenue, but everyone's got a different approach as how to reach that actual vision. So what we try to do through our team building is get everyone aligned to what that vision is, because we all have our own personal perception. But really what we're trying to do is how can we integrate that perception to what the team and the organisation is calling for.
In the perfect world, Stuart, is it down to the, I don't know about HR people, but whoever's hiring, theatre-y lovies would call it casting. Get your casting right and you're more likely to have a more cohesive team. Is that fair to say?
That's absolutely right. The question you need to ask is, who is determining the acquisition policy? If I'm a new CEO going into a business with a remit to double revenues, one of the most important questions I should be asking is, what is our acquisition of talent strategy? Because if that is not right, I can't deliver the results. And if they're not involved, then they should be.
Dave, add to that one. You guys use a particular language. I'm going to ask you to try not to. Simply, do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to, because you know exactly what you're talking about, but it's the kind of legalese and technical talk that sometimes leaves people a bit, what are they on about? Try your hardest. This is my coaching session for you.
Oh, thanks very much. And thank you for that feedback. I think what's great is working with Stuart is we have a product here where people want to get everyone involved in the same vision, work together, but they don't know who they should have on their team. And it's very difficult to maybe understand where the different talents lie and how you can pull all those talents together to get everybody aligned to work towards that vision. Maybe you could talk a bit about the board game as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we've tried to do is to say to people, if you were Jose Mourinho or Pep Guardiola...
You're a big sports fan, I take it.
Absolutely.
Brilliant, okay. There we are, passion.
And you wanted to pick the team for Saturday, what would it look like?
That's such a good way of doing it, isn't it?
And when you're building a business team for a project or an event, go through the same process. Write out a team sheet. Put it into a meaningful way that everybody can understand. That's what we do. We help people visualise.
Fantasy football as a starting block.
Fantasy football as a starting block. Translate it into your business. How does that work? You will then know whether you have the right or the wrong people.
Who are the hardest bodies to work for? I'm assuming they might be civil services, because you basically get what you're given.
Yeah, it depends what scope
you know what I mean?
have within it.
Everybody gets what they're given.
Right.
It's a question of whether you can adapt it and mould it to deliver what you want. Because I could go become manager of this radio station. I get what I'm given. What do I do with it?
You never want to do that. But you see what I mean? I mean, there's probably different hiring policies. I say probably because I don't know this for a fact. In the corporate world and the government world, I'm assuming there were slightly different hiring policies.
There are different hiring policies, but my belief is at the end of the day, people want people to work together.
Yeah, yeah.
And if you have some people that aren't, then...
You can't fire them in the government, though. Well, you can, but with a heck of a lot of hassle. Anyway, we're not talking about the next this morning. Let's get back to the book. From pitch to boardroom, where do we start? Opening few pages.
I think you start with the basic premise. Does the idea work or doesn't it work? Can I use putting a sports team together within my business, or can't I? And when you look at the pressure that sports coaches are under, they're under far more pressure than any corporate manager I've ever come across.
Okay.
Because they have a review, if you like, every 2 days. Have you done well?
Because there's so much money involved, right?
Because there's so much money involved, there's the media involved, there's the supporters involved, there's the investors involved, there's the sponsors involved. They have to answer to everybody every 2 or 3 days. So they have to be very clear and precise about what they're trying to achieve.
If you transpose that to the ordinary world, do you approve of those kind of really microscopic checks and balances?
I'm not sure that we actually approve of it, but it's the way it is.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Dave, you know what I mean here?
Well, a 2-day review, I think, is quite a lot to look at. When we do our programmes, we would set an action plan and really compelling people to actually say what they... Because everyone goes on a team building programme, they get very excited, they think, great, and they might go back to work the next day and do exactly what they were doing before. So we actually try to compel people to actually make some change. We always say that, particularly in teams, people you're working with, perhaps someone is a difficult person. You think, I can't get on with him, he's a very difficult person. It's not that they're difficult, it's that they're different. They approach things in a different way, they do tasks in different ways. Some people are motivated by other people who are on the team, other people are motivated by the task. And it's how you can adapt your behaviour to get a better response from that person, rather than trying to force them into, you're just difficult and I can't work with you. What can you do? How can you change your behaviour to get a better response from the other person?
This is where people need... I think businesses, corporate guys often need to be told by third parties like you guys these things, because what you're talking about now is just human nature. You've made me angry, I don't want to deal with you. That's a human gut reaction, isn't it? And so then you'll come in and go, well, hold your horses. Is that pretty much the deal with it?
I'd say that's what we do, in a sense that we can help people understand each other a little bit better so they can work more effectively in the workplace. What we can't do is go into a business and tell them how to run their business. We're here to introduce a process to help them work more effectively so they can go about their day-to-day business having more fun, understanding if I'm working with this person and I know they're very straight to detail, I shouldn't give any fluff of how was your weekend, what did you get up to last night. I should get straight down to detail. With other people that are more people-focused, you might want to spend some time giving them some constructive feedback, saying, I really like what you did last time, that's why I'd really like you to be involved in this project, and really get that emotional side brought in. And it's really understanding the different types of personalities and how you present yourself to those people to get the best out of them.
What's your game? Is it rugby or football or what?
It's all sports.
Right, so obviously different managers are going to have different ways of dealing with people, probably all of the things that Dave just said. Who are your kind of role models, would you say, for various reasons, manager-wise?
I like all the managers, and that's not a cop-out.
That's all right.
Because I've spoken to quite a few of them, and they all have a very different way of looking at their role. And that's really interesting to see. They all have the same end position in mind, but they have a different way about dealing with it. And what came across during our research for the book was that their relationship with their players, athletes, is a personal relationship. It's not based on skills, and it's not a transactional relationship. And what I mean by that is they're not asking their players to do things, do this, do this, do this, and then I'll give you your salary at the end of the week, which is the way a lot of corporate managers work. They're saying, I know that you can do the job. How do I get you to be better? Talk to me. How do I get you to be better? Because if I understand you, I can tell everyone else how you are, and we can all get much closer together. And that's exactly what David was saying.
That does make sense. Is it considered old-fashioned to crack the whip these days?
Cracking the whip is really important at certain times.
All right.
And you often hear of managers doing that. The half-time team talk.
That's what I mean. You haven't got time to mess around, have you?
You just have to do it. But it's always done within that professional environment. And when I worked in large corporates, to have a disagreement with someone was almost forbidden, because you have to love everybody all the time.
But surely it must bubble up.
It does bubble up, and then it explodes. There's nothing wrong with disagreement, because it's usually a disagreement in a professional way. But let's work out how we do that.
This is the bit that really interests me, you know, the time and the place. If you want to let rip at somebody, you're like, okay, it's done, it's forgotten. I've got a mate who was a global head of a massive bank, and he said getting fired was almost a weekly occurrence, and then you just get hired and doing something else. I mean, that sounds a bit daft, but at that level, the stress of keeping your job, what about that?
Everybody has a stress of keeping their job. do they not? But I think you end up in a position where you know that something has to give.
Okay.
So the best way to do it is to figure out how to confront the issues in front of you.
All right. I'm talking to Stuart Blyth about his book, From Pitch to Boardroom. I want to know what you think of the sort of ABCs of, like, the pecking order or whatever you want to call it. You've got manager and you've got team. What should be the fundamental relationship there, guys?
You have to allow the manager or the leader to lead. You have to show them that they are in control. As soon as you get to a position where members of the team can impact on, if you like, their authority, the thing falls apart. I think a strong team enjoys being led by a strong leader.
But then you need a team that you think, you know that old adage about I want to work with people that are better than me?
Yeah.
So it's down to their personalities, surely, that they're not going to try and usurp me every time they can. They're going to respect me, and together, boom. Is that fair?
But it's not a question of usurping. It's a question of, if you have they will always recruit upwards. They will recruit better people than themselves to do the job that they know the team should be doing.
Right.
And they are secure in their position because they'll be recognised as that leader.
Yeah.
It's the insecure leaders,
right,
who tend to recruit or attract people in who are not as good as them because it makes them look good.
So it really does sometimes come down to the boss being the wrong person in the equation, not the team.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us where the journey you take us on this book. I mean, where do you go through in terms of different chapters, what you look at, and how you compare it to the game?
This the book was written because I'd recently left corporate life. Because
right.
From my own experience, I was very frustrated not being allowed to recruit and manage the team as I wanted to. So you get what you're given.
Yeah.
And I was looking for a way of, who could I look to that manages teams in a very high-profile environment, and could we learn something from them? So what the book does is it establishes some ground rules about try and build the best team that you can. If you're trying to do that, here are some techniques that will help you see whether you're on the right or the wrong track. You don't need to look at all of the techniques, but one or two of them.
What's a really important one?
Really important one is what we call the principle of substitution.
Okay.
If you're watching any team activity or sports activity from the stands, everybody who's watching, either from the stands or on TV, will know if a player is not playing properly.
Okay.
And it is expected that the coach or the manager will substitute them for someone else. And quite often team strategies now are built on the substitution. When do you bring these players on? In business, I've very rarely seen anybody who is underperforming being substituted out of a project team. And so what happens with that is they feel isolated because they know they're the wrong person in the wrong project.
Yeah.
The rest of the team feels they're carrying that person, and both parties are looking to the manager saying, why aren't you doing something about it?
And a drama ensues.
Yes.
Is it, what I'm getting from you saying this one is like each thing belongs to him who can do the most good. That person might not be perfect in this project, but instead of canning them and panning them, we remove them from this project, we put them into something else, which they're brilliant at, and everybody's fine.
Absolutely.
Is that asking too much?
But managers aren't taught to do that. And this is what we hope to do, and I've got a great story. I'd spent some time with a Premier League manager when I was writing the book.
All right.
And I asked him about team selection. How does he do that for the weekend? And he said, well, look, I have 35 people that I can select. Some will be injured, some will be ill, and just not ready to play at the weekend. But I have to choose 17.
Okay.
Which means, on average, I can't select 13 people. And he said, in my view, what I've done is I have made 13 people redundant for the weekend. But I need to work with them as soon as I've made the team selection. Because on Monday, I need them to come back with the same enthusiasm, the same vigour to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
And when you ask when we run our workshops and our courses and we do our coaching, we ask business managers, the last team you selected, what happened to the ones that you didn't select? And how many of those are still with your business? There's always a deathly silence.
There's never somebody goes, well, actually, I'm glad you said that, because there was this one guy who I hated, but he turned out to be brilliant, or something like that.
Yeah.
That's the human nature element again, isn't it? Really. And do you draw conclusions from this? I obviously have only just seen your book, so I haven't got to the end of it yet. Where do you go towards the last final few pages?
The last final few pages are really about follow the framework. If you follow the framework, you will end up with a better team, because you will look at it in a very different aspect than you've previously done, because most people default to the same old friends when they're trying to run initiatives. Don't do that, because you'll find that there are better people out there to help you.
I think you've just hit the nail on the head. There's always better. There's room in this world for people who are equally good and way better than us at what we're doing, instead of going, I want to be the best and I'm going to sit on anybody who doesn't appreciate that. Yeah?
Correct.
That's good indeed. Could you have done this with any other model apart from sport? Just for fun.
Yes. And we often get asked that question. You can look at music, and you can look at the conductor of a philharmonic orchestra. They are actually controlling dozens of very talented musicians.
But they are universally despised.
They might be universally despised, but a person sits in the second violinist chair for a reason. They are the best second violinists you can find.
That's right.
They're not the third or the first, they're the second.
Yeah.
And so you look at it from that perspective, and when a conductor and get together, they know exactly what they're looking for and the sound they're trying to create.
Right person, right job.
In the right seat.
In the right seat. Done. Tell me about your board game.
The board game was developed to help people through the process.
All right.
Because people love to play games. I love to play games, David loves to play games, and getting people to play a board game, which is now in a digital version, allows people to really interact. And when you're playing a game, people are much more relaxed and they're much freer with their strategies for solving the problem.
That's really interesting. You're kind of not exactly fooling people into acting like civilised human beings, but you're fooling them into acting like civilised human beings.
And because of the latest technology, I mean, you can walk around the streets, you're on the MTR, everybody's on their phones, playing games, using WhatsApp, whatever it is. So for them to then be asked to play a game at work is just an extension of that.
Do you think, everybody, you're quite right, everybody's doing it, we all do it ourselves. Do you reckon one of the upsides of this obsession with looking at the phone is it's made people a generation of multitaskers, or better multitaskers? Because actually what we're doing is doodling, we're emailing, we're doing this, we're talking to another person, we're looking out the window. But that can't be bad, can it?
Depends how efficient you're being. There is multi-dimensional thinking, and obviously you can get very frazzled when you've got lots of things running at once. I think what's good about the board game is it's one single focus, and it goes back to that not being disagreeable without disagreeing with other people. It gives you a bit of displacement. So if you do have issues in the team about some of the talent that you have, you can focus on the board game and focus on what you're actually trying to achieve rather than the person. And you're not actually confronting the person, but you're getting a lot of issues out on the table, talking about what kind of talent you have, where you don't feel bad speaking up and speaking out.
That's good, you break the wall down.
You're the problem. You're saying, actually, in this game that we have here, we can see some of these issues and problems that we can also make linkage to our teams, and here's how we can kind of fix them.
That makes sense.
Not being as confrontational.
What's it called, and essentially how do you play it?
It's called From Pitch to Boardroom.
All right. And what's the ABC of playing this game?
It's a board game that is built around selection cards.
Okay.
Because you're selecting a team for a particular task. And as you go through the process, the people become more complex because you don't know everything about everybody at the first stage. It's fairly superficial. And you get to learn whether the people you're selected are good team players, whether they're good at communicating, whether they understand cultural diversity, and a lot of other aspects that are not readily obvious when you first meet somebody.
See, this is an art in itself. I mean, designing and building board games, I mean, it's not just your business of team building. This is a whole age-old art. That must have been fascinating learning how to do it.
It was a great process, and I was very fortunate to work with some very, very skillful learning and development design people and some experts in building games.
It's not. You think it's a dying art. I mean, it's really, board games, literally. But the digital thing, is that what's really taken over here?
The beauty of the digital version is that it is infinitely flexible.
Yeah.
Because you can do you can do much more with it, and it also allows our clients to get groups in various cities together, linked up via the technology, without having to get them on planes, get them in hotels, and run sessions much more efficiently.
That must be a lot of fun as well, because you're going to get people with different cultural yeses and nos, things they like to do and don't do. Have you ever done a big macro version of it?
We did a very large version for a telco in Europe.
Yeah.
And they actually used it as an assessment centre tool.
Fantastic. Can you very quickly tell us a website where we can find out about this?
Yep. There are two websites. It's FromPitchToBoardroom.com or FootballFieldToBoardroom.com.
Stuart Blyth, thanks very much for coming. David Simpson, a pleasure as always, and I'm sure we're going to hear more about you when it comes to Operation Santa time.
Looking forward to it.
Thanks very much, guys.